to the O Show with Orlana Darkins Drewery, your connection to events, topical interests, issues, and the movers and shakers in our world, and the opportunity to learn things that make you say, oh. If you have an event or topic you would like us to consider featuring on the O Show, send us an email at contact@theshinenetwork.org. Just remember, we spell shine with a Y. Finding a vehicle for a teenage driver can be a bumpy ride. As a parent, something safe, affordable, and reliable is a top priority, even if your teen has other preferences. Joining me today is Brian Moody, executive editor for Kelley Blue Book. Brian will be giving tips and advice on how to choose the best car for your teen. Brian, welcome to the O Show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you. So let's jump right in. What are factors that parents should consider when car shopping for their teen?
Well, of course, something you want to consider is affordability. That's definitely important. Reliability is something else. But one thing that we find that people often overlook in terms of buying, usually this is going to be a used car, is the safety equipment that comes on that specific car. So you should look for features like, of course, airbags, of course, anti-lock brakes. But in addition to that, look for things like stability control and traction control, and maybe even a car that has side airbags that would protect your teen's head in case of an accident.
You're right. The list that you provided, I would not have thought of most of those things on your list. So you talked about the safety features we should look for. Are you able to share which cars top this year's best cars for teens?
Sure. And here's the interesting thing about that is that in some cases, it depends on, or it's important to consider the version of the car you're getting. So we would call that the trim level. So you know how like there's a Honda Accord LE or a Honda Accord EX. Okay, that doesn't just mean nice wheels and a sunroof. Some of those cars include specific safety features that only come on that version. So for example, we recommend a car like a 2016 or newer Mazda 3, but it has to be the touring version, which includes blind spot monitors and forward collision warning, that kind of thing. Also, the Toyota Corolla is a good one. 2016 or 2017 and newer, the Honda Accord is a good one. And keep in mind, notice what we haven't talked about yet is SUVs. Big SUVs and trucks are not really safe for teen drivers because they have a higher center of gravity and can tip over if they don't react, appropriately. That being said, there are some smaller SUVs like the Kia Sportage or the Honda CR-V that kind of sit lower to the ground. Those might be okay, but on the whole, cars like sedans, the Corolla, the Toyota Prius is another good one. Those are usually best for teen drivers.
Okay, so we shouldn't have or allow our teens just to pick a car because of how it looks or how big it is or how small it is. There's more that goes into car shopping.
Yes, that's true. Now, you can get your kids' input. You can definitely ask what their preferences are. In my case, we had a teenage driver a while ago, a couple of years ago, and my son just didn't care what kind of car it was at all. He wasn't interested. So on the one hand, that's easier, but on the other hand, it made it more difficult because, all I was doing was looking for safety features and the price, and that worked out fine. I think it's good for the kid to give input, but also keep in mind that when they start saying like, hey, I'd like to have a Corvette, you're like, well, that's probably not going to work for someone who's brand new driving a car for the first time by themselves.
Right. And any advice, I'm sure this is not in Kelley Blue Book, but any advice for parents in managing a teen's expectations?
Yeah, I would just say right off the bat, like, hey, we're going to get what's reasonable and what's safe and start laying the groundwork for safety being the first thing. I have a daughter who's about to start driving, and she had a great attitude about it when I said, listen, we're not going to, because she was texting me stuff like, Dad, you can get a Camaro for $10,000. And I was like, we're not getting a 400 horsepower car for you. Sorry about that, sweetie. But what I said was, hey, we need to think on something that's safe and easy to see out of with good visibility. And she said this back to me, well, maybe I can save my money and one day I'll get the car that I really want. And I was like, wow, that's a great attitude to have.
Right.
But I managed the expectations up front by saying, we're going to get something that's affordable and safe first. And then we can worry about things like the wheels and the color and whether or not it has a nice stereo or not.
Exactly. And just the fact that, any parent, your child behind the wheel is nerve-wracking enough, but you have some peace of
Right.
mind that you did due diligence in finding the safest vehicle possible.
Yeah, totally. And one of the reasons we ended up buying our son a used Hyundai Elantra, and one of the main reasons we did that was because it was an inexpensive car and it had side impact airbags. That protects your head. Well, if you have a car accident and you have a head injury, that's going to change your life. In this case, it wasn't that expensive. It wasn't a financial burden to buy a car like that. It just took a little bit of extra research to figure out which cars have that and which cars don't.
Awesome. Where can people go to get more information on, where can people go for more information on which cars to buy for their teens?
Yeah, you can go to Kelley Blue Book online, which is kbb.com, and there's a lot of great information there, of course, vehicle pricing and all that, but also a list of even more vehicles than what we talked about, a complete list of cars that we think are best for young drivers.
Awesome. Brian Moody, executive editor for Kelley Blue Book. Thank you for sharing these important and life-saving tips.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm happy to do it.
Have a great day. And thank you everyone for listening in to the O Show. Until next time, keep shining.